to James's Small Engine Repair and More. And today we're working on a stihl ms271. It was one of the saws that was in my Saw Mania video. And I'm thinking that he told me there was something wrong with the motor on this one. And when I grabbed a hold of the starter rope, yeah, she comes out pretty easy, pretty quick. And then when I give her a good pull, you can hear some rattling going on. So pretty sure there's something wrong with the motor on that one. But we're going to get it broke down. We're going to see what it looks like, and we'll go from there, and we'll let the man know what it needs and see if he wants to proceed any further. So I'm gonna get the bar and chain off of it, probably get the cover off of it. I'll get it broke down a little bit, probably to the point to where I can actually see something on the inside. I'll probably pull the muffler off and the carb off, and I'll bring you back and we'll take a look at the others, see what we got. So I pulled the plug out of this thing, and it's actually bent over pretty good. And almost closed up. So I wonder if it was hitting on the inside. It doesn't look like there's any hit marks on top of there, but it's also got like a grayish look to it. It's not really quite like a brownish, maybe a dark brown, gray. Oh yeah. She's pretty scored up inside. Or at least it looks like it is anyway. There we go. It's a pretty good sized carb. What the hell? Dumb shit. Of course, you hang something on there so you don't lose it. And what happens? You blow it off with a compressor and you lose it. Oh well. This is a carburetor. Alright. Let's pop this muffler off. And from the factory, the manufacturer puts these little caps over it. You just take a screwdriver and you just pop them off. That gives you access to the screws. that hold the carb on. This carb is probably an EPA carb, so it's probably jammed up with a bunch of crap on the inside, such as a baffle, maybe a converter. We'll see when we get it apart. And it's a big muffler too. So it looks like the guy has already removed the screen in it. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but back in there, let me get my light. Back in there, we got a little itty bitty hole back there. I bet I can barely get my pinky in that little hole. And this muffler is actually a hollow can. Surprising. Saw's older than I thought it was. But yep, it's an empty can. So a mod that we could do on this is open up that hole there to let more out, or possibly drill a hole here and put a little pipe coming out there, if that's something that they wanted to do. There's plenty of room for it. And then you can have a dual port, a little 1/2-inch pipe there, and try to open up that some back in there. I'm surprised how small that is. Oh yeah, oh yeah. She's done. It has actually smeared the piston over the rings. And I hear something ticking in the bottom of it, so I'm wondering if there's the connecting rod's any good. Maybe the lower end is probably no good. It sounds like maybe the connecting rod might be just flopping back and forth or something. Let's see if we can't get you a look inside here. So there we are. Not sure. It's all scored up pretty good. Let's see if we can bring the piston around to where the rings are. Yep. There's where the rings are. So the guy said this is the saw. I think he said that this is the saw that he lets people use that don't know how to use a saw. And he's not sure if somebody didn't put straight gas in it instead of mixed, or what happened to it. But we're going to get this thing torn apart for him. And see what all other damage is done to it. In the meantime, we'll disassemble this a little bit more, and I'll bring you back. All right, I got the cylinder off. And this is what the piston looks like. It looks really bad, but it's really not. I'm not really catching my fingernail on anything. Don't get me wrong, there is something there. When I rub my finger across it, I feel some waviness, so, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. And the rings are not stuck like I thought they would be. So they're there. I mean, they're moving around. I mean, I'm not really catching anything. I got this pointed pick. Sliding across there pretty easy. Might take and pull the thickness on here, compare it to the intake side, and see how much is worn away. I'm sure a little bit of it is, but if it were mine, I'd probably try to clean it up. It'd just be a firewood saw, you know? And the cylinder here, let's see what I can show you in here. The exhaust side, it looks horrible. And that transfer side, doesn't look that bad, but this transfer side looks pretty bad. I barely feel anything there. What's that pick? I mean, I can feel some roughness in there with this pick, but it's not like really catching anything and like dropping into a deep groove or anything. I mean, it's still skating across there. Here's two cylinders I have that came off of some Poland's, and this one was scoring up on the exhaust side, and you can clearly feel them. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah, I think you can see that a little bit. When I rub my pick across there, it skates toward the top. When I start working down there toward that bottom there, it's grabbing. It's grabbing bad. I mean, I'm sure you can hear that. Same way with this one. It's got a lot of damage on the exhaust side on it also. And it's mostly in the combustion chamber side of that exhaust. A little bit of marks below the exhaust, but above the exhaust where most of those marks are. And You can feel those marks pretty good. Up here, you're just skating along. Get down in there above the exhaust, you start feeling that, getting into that rough area. And these are just some junk cylinders I keep around just for playing around and doing some porting on some junk cylinders. But like on this, I just opened it up quite a bit. A lot of exhaust debris, changed the timing on it a bit. Intake side, cleaned it up, lowered it a bit down here. And then that's the transfer that was untouched. And this is transfer after I did some grinding on it. And you can see that transfer along here that it's quite a bit thinner than it is here. Right in that area is thicker. So I took a bit out of it. But these are just some junk cylinders I play around with once in a while. But on this cylinder here, I barely feel anything. I bet you that we could probably clean that up with a brake hone and possibly salvage the cylinder. And it's just a firewood saw then, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't bet on the saw, I wouldn't be taking trees down with it or nothing like that. Maybe limbing with it and cutting logs or something like that. But with this not being my saw, I'm just going to recommend that he gets a cylinder kit for it, which will come with a cylinder, piston rings, and probably a connecting rod. But I've also got to figure out what this clicking noise is. And that might... Not sure what it is yet. Not sure what it is yet. The testing the bearings, and there's no play in that crankshaft on either side, the PTO side or the flywheel side. I'm just gonna have to break it down a little bit more and connecting rod doesn't have discoloration in it, I don't think. Maybe so. Doesn't quite look gold like the rest of it. Got a little bit darker color to it. He might need a bottom end too. I don't know. I'm gonna work on it a little bit more. See if I can figure out what that noise is. I'll bring you back. All right. So the piston is done. When I put the piston down into the cylinder, it rocks really bad. And this side of the skirt, which is the exhaust side, is only half the thickness of the intake side. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but see how paper thin this is over here compared to this side over here. And when you drop that in the cylinder, it rocks really bad. The cylinder is scoring up, yes. Not too terribly bad though, but that clicking noise that I said I was hearing. So here's the bearing on this side. There is play in this bearing. And these bearings, I don't know why stihl does it, but they use a bearing with a plastic race. If the race goes away, then all your ball bearings will just go however way they want to go. Just like all these over here. The race is completely gone over here. And you can see all the bearings are sitting at the bottom of the bearing itself. And there's a large gap up here where none of the bearings are, and the race is completely gone. So this connecting rod on the bottom end, you can see how this is like a bronze color or gold color. Down here it's darker, so it started to go through a heat, and there is play in it. So in all out reality, this thing needs everything. It needs a crank because this bearing is no good. These bearings can be changed out, but or this one's no good. And so you buy a whole crank assembly, which will come with a connecting rod. You would need the wrist pin bearing, a new set of crank bearings and seals, a new cylinder and new piston, so it needs everything. And that's probably going to be pretty expensive, especially if he wants to go OEM, which I don't think this person will go OEM, but you never know. That's if he wants to do anything at all. This might be, I'll get him a price, but it might be too much for him, or more than what he wants to put into a saw. By the time he buys all that, he may be able to buy a new saw, or at least be halfway there. But that's for him to decide. But so that's my results on the stihl ms271. It has a bad cylinder. It has a bad piston. It has a bad, completely lower end. It is completely bad. And he's probably right. It's probably due to, well, I was going to say maybe putting straight gas in it, but I would like to think that this side would be all scuffed up too, and this still has the factory machine marks on it. But I don't know, maybe some sort of contamination. I'm not convinced that it was had anything to do with fuel. I'm not convinced of that. That's going to be it for this video. Appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel, James Small Engine Repair and More, and give me a thumbs up. Leave some comments and let me know what you think. Be kind and help people whenever you can.